Back when my buddies and I were only a few months removed from high school, one of the games we all got really big into was something called Test Drive Unlimited 2. This is a racing game franchise that time has, for the most part, forgotten. Test Drive as a franchise always played second fiddle to EA's line of Need for Speed games throughout the 5th and 6th console generation, but for the Xbox 360 era, they did something radically different that actually put these games on the map. While the concept of an open-world racing game was not new in the slightest, by the time of the first Test Drive Unlimited launch, we'd already seen Underground 2, NFS Most Wanted, NFS Carbon, an array of Midnight Club and Midtown Madness games, as well as Street Racing Syndicate. The vision behind Test Drive Unlimited and Test Drive Unlimited 2 was a lot more grandiose. They were effectively racing game metaverses. And I'm not talking about Mark Zuckerberg humiliating himself by blowing an obscene amount of money on making PlayStation Home, but worse. This was a massive street racing MMO with an incredible amount of detail and things to do packed inside it, all built on a relatively modest budget. This particular game launched in the very early months of 2011, which means we were still 2 years away from the very first Forza Horizon game. Not only is the scope of this game impressive, period, it came out in an era in which Forza Horizon did not exist. Eden Games had no blueprint to follow. They were the blueprint. The entire island of Oahu and Spain's Ibiza have both been replicated one-to-one, and you can jump between them at any time. They're not scaled down or bite-sized chunks of land like the maps in something like Forza Horizon or Need for Speed are. Every building in the game has its own unique 3D space. When you buy a house, you can walk around inside. Based on the house you buy, all of them are different, and if you want to put a photo you took in the game's photo mode in one of the picture frames or posters on the wall, you can. When you want to buy a new car for your dude, you have to physically find the Ferrari dealership in person and then go inside the dealership and walk around and walk up to the car you want to buy that's on display. If you want to buy clothes for your dude, you first have to drive to the clothing store, walk inside the clothing store, and then hit on the cashier. If you want to fly from Hawaii to Spain or vice versa, you have to physically drive to the airport. Yes, there's fast travel to make things a little more convenient, but that's not the point. This is Second Life with cars, and even though the driving model is kinda ass, the sheer size of this game makes up for it. This game's mere existence is the sole reason Mark Zuckerberg should feel humiliated at the amount of money he spent on the Metaverse project. Yet, just like Second Life, this game is also an avenue to explore very obscure sexual fetishes. Among the array of standard races you can do in this game, there are also randomly generated missions that pop up on your map from time to time. Some of them just ask you to shuttle a car from point A to point B for a decent amount of money. Others are kinda odd.
I have some doubts about my girlfriend. I think she's hiding something from me. Can you follow her car discreetly?
In a racing game where 99% of the time you're bombing around a tropical island in Ferraris and Bugattis, there's a string of missions where you're asked to essentially partake in some dude's cuck fetish. The missions are excruciating to play and pay out almost no money compared to any other activity in the game. You're asked to drive your Ferrari at traffic speeds to follow another car for several minutes while your passenger whines that his girlfriend might be cheating on him. Your reward for this is basically no money at all. As you can imagine, in a metaverse where you're buying supercars and houses and going to casinos and playing poker against people, a $4,000 reward is nothing. The game also goes out of its way to show the girl cheating on her boyfriend, and then shows another cutscene where your passenger's all sad about it.
I knew she was hiding something from me. Thank you.
This is the part of the video where I tell you that you have to do 100 of these. Not 100 cuck missions, but 100 NPC missions, most of which are cuck missions. Remember what I said about TDU2 being built on a relatively modest budget? Because of that, Eden Games really didn't have the funding or the means to make all different types of NPC missions, so the game really just pulls from the same 6 over and over again. This means it's possible to boot up TDU2 and do nothing but cuck missions in your supercar game. This footage in the background is not taken from someone else's channel and being used in a transformative way. This is just a gameplay session I captured from earlier this afternoon playing on the Project Paradise 2 mod. Obviously this game's kinda old at this point and access to the official online servers has been shut down, but there's been a small team on Discord who have essentially revived this game and restored access to the game's online servers. So over the past couple days, myself and Tyler have been just playing through this, and it's been hilarious when other people pop in our Discord and say, hey, what are you guys doing? And we tell them about TDU2 and the really strange cuck missions because it sounds like what we're saying is crazy talk. In our free-roaming supercar MMO that's kind of like Forza Horizon but better, there are these really elaborate cuck missions where you pick up some effeminate guy and tail his girlfriend only to discover that she's cheating on him, and it shows this really elaborate cutscene where she starts making out with a guy, and then he starts crying about it, so you wave goodbye and do a burnout in your Ferrari. This sounds not real. But no, what I'm showing you on the screen is legit raw gameplay from earlier this afternoon. I booted up TDU2, I did a Cuck mission in Spain. Then I flew to Hawaii, and I'm going to do another Cuck mission. Now, because I've just unlocked Hawaii, I can't actually fast travel to the location of the Cuck mission, so I had to drive 30 kilometers to get to it. Even as teenagers, we were like, yo, those missions in TDU are fucking weird, aren't they? And we're like, yeah, why the fuck did they even put that in the game? Now that we're all 30 years old, this is not exactly aged any better, it's aged worse. Video games are not rock albums in the 70s where Paul Stanley sits down and writes a song about his penis called Love Gun, and then the record company says, that's hilarious, let's sell a paper gun with the album. Think of all the brands associated with this product, and then someone had to sit down and actually design this, and then someone had to script out the dialogue that you hear in the cutscenes, and then someone had to rig all the animations up, and then another person had to decide how this would fit into the game world, and how much money you should be rewarded for it, and how many of these missions you actually had to do to count towards game completion. 100 missions sounds good? Yeah, let's do 100. And then someone had to code an algorithm that determined how many times the Cuck missions actually appear in the game in relation to the other NPC missions. And someone probably reported a bug saying, hey, the Cuck missions don't actually appear enough in relation to the other NPC missions, and that's actually a problem. We need the Cuck missions to appear more. And not one person stopped and was like, Adam. His name's probably not Adam, but bear with me here. Adam, please don't put your Cuck fetish into a supercar racing game. The other stuff like being able to physically walk through a Ferrari dealer and like sit in the car at the dealership and then pick all the real-life trim options for that car, that's really cool. We should keep that. I really don't know what it adds to the gameplay experience having a player relive your repressed trauma in the form of an NPC encounter that gives them basically no money. Also, why are you making them do this 100 times? This is very weird. Bros, don't let your girlfriend cheat on you like this. It's not healthy.